Hello and welcome to St. Bona Shootaround, the only show at Bonaventure that's still trying to recover from that USA loss against Canada yesterday. We're your home for pregame coverage of Bonnie's home games. I'm your host, Chris Spiker, and I'm joined once again by Taylor Negrelli, sports editor of the Bonaventure. Thanks for coming back again, Taylor.
Hey, thanks for having me.
This afternoon, the Bonnies welcome Rhode Island to the Reilly Center and will retire former SBU great Andrew Nicholson's number 44 jersey. But first, the Bonnies look to avenge a January loss to the 8-10 rival Duquesne. The Bonnies held an 11-point lead at the half as Jordan Gathers put up 15 off the bench in the first. But the Dukes stormed back with an 18-7 run to tie the game at 48 with 16 to go. However, Matt Wright led the charge for the Bonnies with 22 points, including 16 in the second half. The Dukes kept it tied into the last minute, but Yusu Endoy sank the game-winning layup with 33 seconds to go. The Brown and White held on for the 71-67 victory. Here's what Coach Schmidt had to say about the win.
Stops at the end. We finished, and I was proud. We fought. We didn't play our best, but we found a way, and that's in this league. That's what you got to do.
So the Bonnies are back at 500 in conference with that win. They let it get a little too close to comfort. But what did you think of Bonnies in crunch time today, Taylor?
I think it's exactly what Coach Schmidt said. They finally got stops at the end of the game. I think that's been the big issue. They haven't been able to stop other teams from scoring. It's impressive they did it against such like a diverse offensive team with guys like Coulter, Mason, Soko, and they were able to stop them at the end of the game. It was really impressive. Yeah,
nobody in particular really stood out for Duquesne. Nobody really had another 20-point performance. There was 3 guys in double figures, but that's going to happen. And Soko certainly was kept in check more in this game.
Oh, absolutely. I think Mason and Soko in the first half combined for 8 points, and I thought that was huge. Mason was a non-factor. Soko was kept in check by Simmons, Yusu, Wright down low, and he just couldn't really get anything going. And even throughout the entire game, they weren't much of a factor.
And I mean, it's been the story all season, but Dion Wright has just been incredibly improving over the course of the year. And in particular, what I saw against Duquesne is that he was more of an offensive threat in terms of creating his own shot, as opposed to earlier in the year when he's been gobbling up points and garbage rebounds and other kind of plays like that, where he's been getting hustle points, but now I see him creating more offense for himself.
Yeah, there was a point like about midway through the second half, he got 3 baskets in a row, and after that he was taking a lot of shots. He was a factor offensively, which is something it's kind of rare for a sophomore in the A-10 to be as confident on offense as he is and as capable as he is.
Definitely, and you got to look again at Jordan Gathers at how he's continued to improve. After having a bit of a slow start in A-10 play, he had 16 points or 15 points right in the first half, and he got, while coming off the bench, he got the Bonnies off to a right foot and gave him an 11-point halftime lead.
Right. As soon as Kloof got in foul trouble, he came in. He played excellent. I mean, you don't usually get 15 points from Charlotte and Kloof, but that's what you got from Gathers, and he stepped in admirably. It's like Kloof wasn't even in foul trouble.
Yeah, that was very interesting with how Kloof only had 2 points, but he was able to, I guess, manage the game into making it offensively better. Like, he made the game slower, he made the game work through on plays, and he controlled the play for the Bonnies.
Right, he played excellent defense. Mason, he played the entire second half, and he got 6 assists as well, I believe. He was still a factor. Obviously, even he had a rough offensive game, only 1 of 5 or 1 of 6 shooting. He didn't have a great shooting day, but he's still a factor.
And of course, Matt Wright continues his tear after having co-A-10 Player of the Week last week. He had 16 points in the second half, and it was just incredible to see him continue that, and hopefully he'll continue that as he plays down the stretch.
Right, yeah. I mean, he has struggled to be consistent at times, and he has his off games, but he's just obviously the team's best offensive player. He's an offensive creator. He's just a natural scorer, and they'll need him to keep that up as there's not much natural scoring.
And of course, the game ended with how else but Matt Wright getting the ball out on the perimeter and the Duquesne defense overcommitting, and so he found Endoy for a nice layup. It was truly interesting to see him commit to that. And now the Bonnies host Rhode Island for a chance to tie to last year's A-10 win total of 7. Junior Xavier Munford leads the Rams with 17.6 points a game, good for 6 in the A-10. Hashan Martin is tied with SBU's Endoy for 3rd in the conference with 2.3 blocks a game. The Rams got out to a fairly strong start with a 9-6 non-conference record, highlighted by a win at LSU on January 4th. But URI hasn't handled the A-10 very well, with just a 2-10 record. After beating Dayton on January 25th, the Rams lost 6 straight games. Coach Dan Hurley's team is in last in the A-10 in points per game and allows the 9th most points in conference. So with the final stretch of the season coming up, how do you see the Bonnies handling the Rams, Taylor?
I mean, I don't think they should have too much trouble. The Rams haven't won a conference road game yet. They haven't won a road game in, I think, 2.5 months. They're, as you said, they're last in offense. They're not very good at defense either. And I think the only trouble that the Bonaventure could have is with their guard play, with Munford, Matthews, who can both score.
Yeah, when I see Xavier Munford, I look at how he plays in a similar role on his team to John Sevier at Fordham, where he's asked to do a lot more than he probably should because he's relied on as the main scorer. And so if the Bonnies can contain him and contain his damage, they should be able to get out of here with a win. Oh,
absolutely. I mean, Rhode Island struggled so much. I mean, the home crowd, well, the student section won't be there, but there's no excuse to not get a win at home there. It's a team that struggles as much as Rhode Island. They really might be the worst team in the A-10. Their scoring differentials, I mean, I think 12 for 13, and they've just really struggled of late.
And they're also down there in the assist-to-turnover ratio. They're not very efficient with handling the ball on offense, and they're about a middle-of-the-road rebounding team, so hopefully they can neutralize Hashan Martin's down-low presence, because Endoy and Martin should battle back and forth, and hopefully that'll leave some opportunities for, as we said before, Deion Wright and even Marquise Simmons to continue his hot shooting.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think they should have too much trouble with the rebounding. I mean, the Bonnies tend to out-rebound pretty much everyone they play. And, I mean, Rhode Island that's what they do the best, I guess. It's the only thing they're really not terrible at is rebounding. And I think, yeah, Yusuf will be a huge factor. But even if he's not, he wasn't last week sometimes. He has those 3-4 rebound games. You know, Deion's still there. Simmons is still there. Christie's off the bench if you need him. So I don't think that should be too much of an issue.
Yeah, and well, speaking of big rebounders for Bonas, before this afternoon's game, the Bonnies will retire Andrew Nicholson's number 44 jersey. So what will you remember most about his career, Taylor?
I think what I'll remember is just going to a game, like before I covered the team, so going to a game and never knowing what you could see or having the hope that you could see someone have a fantastic performance. I think what sticks out the most is the Xavier game and playing against a team that was ranked for part of the year and ended up going to the Sweet 16 and just dominating them. And I think he had like 8 blocks, something around 25 points, and 10 rebounds. And he just dominated them, and I guess that's what I remember most.
Yeah, and the one moment that sticks out for me, particularly in that season, is the St. Joe's game at home in the Reilly Center, when the double overtime game where he hit those threes in the clutch with Matt Wright. And that was an iconic moment that almost had us thinking that this could be a season that could go further than what most people would expect out of St. Bonaventure.
Yeah, I think there was a few times near the end of that year where it went from like thinking like, oh, this is kind of a disappointing year, to thinking, wow, there's no limit to what the team could do just because of how well he played. I mean, especially over the last 7 or 8 games, and he's shooting lights out from 3, rebounding like crazy, and he was fun to watch.
Yeah, and it will certainly be great to honor him, and that ceremony is coming up here on SBU-TV. Well, thank you again for joining me, Taylor.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Once again, Taylor Negrelli is the sports editor of the Bonaventure, St. Bonaventure student-run newspaper. This week's sports section features an editorial by Taylor about how Andrew Nicholson's impact is still felt at Bonaventure. You can pick up a copy at various places on campus or visit www.thebv.org. And this is our last regular season show of the year, so I want to thank my professors, Denny Wilkins, Paul Wheeland, and Joe Pachakowski. In addition, I also want to thank the crew of volunteers that I've had that have helped me out throughout these shows. And thank you again for joining us for another edition of St. Bona Shootaround. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/St. Bona Shootaround to watch our episodes. From the Coop Lab, I'm Chris Spiker. Enjoy the game.